Every culture on Earth has a story meant to keep people inside at night. They're usually just old tales meant to scare kids. But some stories don't feel like myths, they feel like warnings, and this is one of them. There's an old urban legend, whispered across Eastern Europe, about something called the Watcher in the Roads. At first, it sounds like classic folklore. A pale figure, seen standing on the side of empty roads, always at dusk, always alone. It's the kind of thing you'd expect to hear around a campfire. But the details are what make people believe it's more than just a story. Witnesses describe a tall, impossibly thin person, with no visible face, just smooth, blank skin where the eyes and mouth should be. They don't move. They don't speak. They simply stand and watch. If you try to drive past them, you might feel a brief moment of relief, thinking it's over. But then, you'll see them again, just minutes later, standing farther down the same road, even though there's no possible way they could have gotten ahead of you. And here's where it gets even stranger. The earliest written accounts of this figure date back hundreds of years, long before cars even existed. Travelers on horseback wrote about a silent, faceless watcher appearing on quiet dirt paths, always at the exact moment the forest went completely still. Entire villages passed down warnings to travelers. Never look directly at it. Never acknowledge it. Because, if you did, it would follow you home. Fast forward to today, and the modern reports are chillingly similar. They come from hikers, long-haul truck drivers, even police officers responding to rural night calls, and they all describe the same impossible detail. The figure is always standing perfectly, unnaturally still, except for its head, which turns slowly to follow you as you pass even when the rest of its body doesn't move an inch. Now, scientists would likely call this a classic case of pareidolia. Our brain's tendency to see faces and human shapes, where none exist, especially in low light. Folklorists would say it's a powerful myth, a boogeyman passed down through generations to explain the fear of the dark. But here's the part that gives me chills. In some regions where these sightings are common, people absolutely refuse to talk about it on camera. Not because they think it's fake, but because they genuinely believe that speaking its name, that telling its story, invites it to find you. One particularly terrifying modern report came from a man who claimed he saw the faceless figure 3 nights in a row while driving home from his late-night shift. He was shaken, but tried to rationalize it. On the 4th night, he drove the same route, his eyes scanning the roadside, but the figure didn't appear. He felt a wave of relief. That night, he woke up at 3 a.m., to the unmistakable sound of slow, deliberate footsteps in his hallway. Frozen in his bed, he waited until morning. When the sun came up, he found his front door was still locked from the inside. Psychologists might suggest these sightings are connected to sleep deprivation, isolation, or environmental fear triggers. And that makes sense. But none of those explanations account for why people from different countries, people who don't know each other, who've never heard the legend before, describe the exact same being down to the smallest, most unsettling details. And here's maybe the scariest fact of all. Urban legends don't survive for centuries by accident. Stories fade, myths evolve, but warnings remain. Something that people saw, or felt, or couldn't explain. That stays. It gets carved into our collective memory. So whether the Watcher in the Roads is a myth, a shared hallucination, or something much darker that's been traveling alongside humanity for centuries, one thing is certain: thousands of people are convinced they've seen it. And all of them say the exact same thing. If you ever find yourself on an empty road at dusk, and you notice a tall figure standing perfectly still by the side of the road. Don't slow down. Don't try to get a better look. And whatever you do, don't acknowledge it. Because if the legend is true, the moment you notice it, is the moment it notices you. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories that will keep you up at night, be sure to subscribe.